first off, how did the three of you come together to work on the project?
I have been friends with Brendan for about 15 years. He's like one of my oldest best friends, emphasis on old. And so I was initially approached to take over Batgirl just on my own as a writer-artist. And I'd already, like a day previously, had committed to doing another project. So I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it all on my own. So I asked Brendan if he would be able to collaborate with me on the writing, because we're very much in sync. We're on the same page. We have very similar attitudes to kind of like how comics should be, or what we think is appropriate for certain characters. And then I'd been following Babs on Tumblr for a couple of years, just because I had seen some of her artwork, as it gets passed around on the internet, and just bookmarked her site as a file away for reference. And with what we kind of wanted to do with Batgirl and have something that was very kind of youth-oriented and fashion-forward and stylish. I wanted someone who looked like they were influenced by animation and so on. She was the top of my list, so I contacted her. And we had to kind of dance around it a little bit and not tell her what it was that we wanted to do.
Right.
But would you like to draw a comic book? And and then so Mark Doyle, our editor-in-chief of the not editor-in-chief, but the group editor of the Bat titles, signed off on both of them. He was more than happy to bring them both aboard.
So what's the process like? Because you guys co-write, you do layouts, you do pencils. How does it? Take me through the making of an issue.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, it starts with Cameron and I just sort of jamming on story ideas. And at this point, we had to pitch an arc's worth of stories. So we have a template for what we're doing for the first 6 issues. So then we take the issue and kind of jam on the specifics of it. We break that down page by page. And at that point, you've got a workable layout of the story that can be turned into a comic. And that's exactly where we go from there. Cameron actually has enough material to start doing layouts from that. So while he's doing that, I'm trying to shoot him like dialogue and just scene beat ideas, some of which he likes, some of which he just completely ignores, some of which he just finds are too much for the page, which is saying something, because Cameron Stewart is one of the few people who can cram 20 some odd panels on a page. And then what results is this sort of incredible amalgam of both of us that then gets handed off to Babs to Ingooden. She adds the style. We're the styleless old men. She brings the fun and the flirt.
While Babs is drawing the final pages, drawing over my sort of rough drawings, then Brendan and I are working on the dialogue script. So we're going in sort of based on the final art, and based on how much space we have, figuring out exactly what the final dialogue is. So it's a strange process. I don't know if anyone else really does it this way, but it seems to work so far.
I think it's pretty unique. Yeah. And I think it's a lot. It's dependent on just how our personalities operate
And Babs is sort of invisibly very much part of the writing as because we're altering.
I'm the spirit animal.
Yeah,
it's actually true.
Like we're altering. It's already evolved quite a bit from what our original outline was, just simply through Babs' involvement. We're writing to her strengths. We're sort of figuring out things that she wants to see, and she's going to be.
More shirtless boys, more flirting.
Yeah. And we seriously, when we hear that, we listen to it, and we go, all right, well, she would be part of our audience if she wasn't actually working on the book. So
this comic is like exactly what I wanted when I was younger. Like I was into drawing, and I want when I walked into comic shops, it'd be like, oh, do you have something like fun and like flirty kind of, but super superhero-y, and they're like. They didn't know what to give me. And, I'm so excited to be working with you guys and be able to put that on the shelf for someone my age, interested in art now. So it's pretty cool.
Rather than these clear sort of delineations, this sort of assembly line process that happens in a lot of other books, we're all really kind of in there working on it together. And I think the process is pretty unique, but it pays off.
This is a team. We're a complete team of weirdos, including Chris Conroy, our editor, and Mark Doyle, the group editor.
So there was a lot of really positive buzz, like the minute the image of the new Batgirl hit the internet. What went into redesigning the character and making her feel fresh again?
When I was approached to take over the book initially, I knew that I wanted to change the tone from what it was previously. It was very dark, it was very grim, there was a lot of violence, and I've always felt that Batgirl should be more upbeat and more positive and more hopeful and be a contrast to Batman. It shouldn't be a compliment to Batman. It should be a contrast to it. So I wanted to change the costume from the armored high-tech one. I just didn't feel it was appropriate, both for my own tastes and sensibilities and for the tone of the story that we wanted to tell. So I wanted to do something that was very fashion conscious and seemingly something that was realistic for a young girl to be able to both make and wear and feel good about it, and wanted it to be something that girls of that age would look at and go, yeah, that's awesome. That's like a really fun costume. And so we just kind of approached it from a fashion perspective. And I did an initial design and handed it off to Babs, and she revised it and made it 100 times better.
And Babs, I know the book just came out 2 days ago, but your artwork style is very, very fresh and very different for DC. What's the fan reaction that you've gotten so far been like?
People love me. No, it's been really fun. I think, we're bringing in a lot of new audience, like with my style, which I love, and I've had a really good reaction to it, and I've been enjoying it. I don't know.
She's a superstar in like out of not obscurity, but I mean, she was well known for some illustration work that she'd done, but in comics she'd never done a comic before,
right?
And she's not like everyone in the comics business knows who she is now. Like, she's just gone to 100 miles an hour like that. It's incredible.
Has there, this is, like I said, obviously a very different take on Batgirl. Has there been any pushback, things you can't do? Has there been any ideas you wanted to tackle that DC is sort of? I don't know if I can ask that in the DC booth, but
anything that we. Anything that's in the danger zone is in the danger zone just because we're doing kind of a 180.
Right.
And these are things ideas that we've got, things that we want to talk about that, DC made the correct call on. It's not the stuff that you want to do in your first 6 issues. So these are the things that you're going to see in the second arc and the third arc. And, we're going to be on this book forever. So we're going to meet these ideas out slowly. And we've got some amazing, exciting ideas.
Good.
I had an idea.
If I do say so myself.
I had an idea early on that was sadly rejected, where I wanted to make Batgirl a man, and they didn't go for that, unfortunately.
Insert humor.
Yeah.
So I know you obviously can't get into specifics, but what are your kind of long-term goals for the character, at least?
How do we talk about this without revealing it?
She's 21, so she's going to try to find herself, I think, and be more confident and grow in that sort of aspect. At least, I can't reveal story things, but you can think of that. Like, she's kind of like figuring shit out right now, and she'll get more of that. Yeah.
One thing, I mean. There's a lot. There are a lot of there's a lot of fans that are very emotionally involved in Batgirl, and not just Barbara Gordon Batgirl, but with Oracle and with Stephanie Brown and with Cassandra Cain. And one thing that I always want to stress is that we're very conscious and aware of those desires from those segments of the audience and what they want to see. And we're very conscious of that, and when we may not be able to do exactly what they want, but we hope that we're able to address those things and please them in a way that will hopefully be unexpected, but still be satisfying.
This is the very first chapter, the first 20 pages in a new storyline, in a new arc, and in the latest part of Barbara's journey. So if everyone just can remember that it's a story and we're getting there, and there's a reason for everything, and it's all going to make sense, and we want the same things as the fan base, so we're going there.
The Batman universe is, relatively famous for having crossovers about every other day. But your book is such a different feel. Is there any plans? Do you know? Is it kind of staying on its own for now? Are they going to have to get sucked into some of the big crossovers? Do you know how that's going to play out?
We asked that when we were sort of still putting the outline together in the pitch. That was a concern. We were like, if we're working very hard to establish this very specific light tone, That's going to be undone completely if we're forced to participate in some dark, grim sort of crossover. And Mark Doyle, our group editor, was really amazing, and he was like, you know what, this you won't have to do that unless you feel like it's going to be appropriate to the story, and maybe we can work on ways that if it is something that we can approach it from a unique way and work contextually, but not really have to alter our tone. But generally, we're trying to kind of be separate from all of that and just kind of exist in our own little shielded little world, and you know, it's part of the world, but it's in a little separate pocket of it.
And there's a good reason for that, because part of what we're doing is showing that Barbara can exist without Bruce.
Right.
You know, Barbara having an armored costume is, you know, at a 21-year-old with no job and a father who's a police officer, clearly can't fabricate or purchase an armored costume on her own. She's dependent on Bruce for everything up until now. Now she's on her own, and now she's got her own world, and we're letting her stand on her own 2 feet.
There's something to be said also for books that can stand on their own and don't necessarily have to be part of a bigger thing. And we've seen a lot of people, a lot of fans have said, like, I don't read comics or I don't read DC Comics or whatever, but I'm going to get this one. And we want to be able to give them a satisfying experience on its own without having to be dependent on these other titles as well.
Great. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Thank you.